First of all, I thought it was really interesting to hear David's answers to my questions. We've been friends forever, but have not talked at this deep a level in a long time, probably not since high school. Going off to different colleges creates a lot of distance between people, so I'm really glad that I got to know him a little bit again and learn about this new part of his identity. The main differences between us are that he is male and he identifies as gay, whereas I am female and I identify as straight. While the differences between males and females are really prominent in our society, I chose to focus solely on LGBTQ issues and created a lesson plan on including famous people in texts that include these issues. One thing that sets David apart from our students is that he did not identify as gay in high school. He really started to realize it once he was in college, which I think is a lot different from a lot of our students. He was obviously more mature than a student going through puberty and discovering this part of their identity at the same time, and he also had a great support system with his friends and family. I think it's important to remember that our students are going through so much already. They have the politics of middle or high school and the drama that automatically comes with that. They also may have problems with their families and they may not be supported as they should be. They could be dealing with bullying because of some part of their identity as well. While I think it's valuable to address LGBTQ issues in the classroom, we also have to make sure to approach them in an inclusive way and to be sure to not isolate or separate anyone from the group that may not be comfortable with that. Another thing I learned was that I really did not know much about LGBTQ issues or inclusion in the classroom. Through my research for the lesson plan, I found that a lot of schools do try and include these students, and a lot of schools have GSA programs, but so much more work needs to be done. There is still so much violence and discrimination against people that identify as anything other than straight. I included a research project in my unit plan about issues like these because I think it's important for students to have a background of knowledge about the topic. Seeing the statistics may make the issues resonate more and will hopefully be memorable to the students as they go off on their own and have to deal with the politics on their own. Bullying is also an issue that students have to deal with that will be present in our classroom and probably every school building we will ever work in. David is a 26-year-old man who still has to deal with being treated differently or looked at differently because of his identity. So we have to imagine how hard that is as a school-aged child. He mentioned sometimes when he goes out, he gets stared at if he's with a group of other men, or he just feels like he's treated differently. So I can't imagine what that is like for children that are in high school. Knowledge is the cure for ignorance, and including any kind of LGBTQ texts or discussions in the classroom will lead to more understanding. It doesn't even have to be an entire unit plan. It can be something as simple as one short story or poem that can lead to an open discussion about these issues that will hopefully resonate with students. In my unit plan, I included a poem that can be interpreted as just a love poem, and so I made it open to any kind of student, regardless of how they identify, and I feel like both gay or straight or anything in between could make a connection to it and find it meaningful. Texts are open to interpretation, and simply including texts that aren't explicitly straight could be beneficial. Another aspect of David's interview that I think is important to remember is that he was around while there were conversations going on about gay students in our class. There was one student specifically that was in the color guard while David and I were both in the marching band, and he was out as gay, and he was pretty much constantly made fun of or always the butt of the jokes. While it was extremely horrible of everyone that did make fun of him, it was also heartbreaking to think that David overheard these things and probably thought the same would be said about him. And from that, I think we definitely need to make sure that this kind of thing is absolutely not done in our classroom. We need to try our best to create a school climate where bullying does not occur. We never know who is around us and how they identify themselves, so we need to make sure to never make jokes or make fun of everybody, and we need to make sure that that is passed on to our students. Another takeaway from my interview and this project is that sometimes, or often, the groups of people that are most often stereotyped do not fit into them. David is a male that happens to be gay. He doesn't let that affect his worldview or politics, though. All of the questions that I asked him were answered from him as a person rather than him as a gay person. He is simply living in the world and loving who he wants to love, like we all have the right to do. It's important for us to remember and to pass on to our students that there are stereotypes for a reason, and usually that reason is ignorance or some kind of phobia or something, or someone being different. Stereotypes are meant to be broken, and people can be whoever they want to be in our world. Now, the biggest takeaway I got from the entire assignment is that not every student is like us. We have to remember that there are students in our class who have different politics, identities, and cultures than we do. And we have to do our best to include every one of them. We also have to do our best to just be open to every student, because even we will have our prejudices sometimes. If, for example, a student has different kinds of politics than we do, we have to make sure to not kind of isolate them. I think students will learn best when they feel that they are represented in the classroom, and it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly, but as long as they can see themselves in some way depicted on the page, I just think that's really important. And we just have to be sure to include all these different texts and perspectives.